It's Thursday, January 4th. Welcome back, everybody. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Chicago. Starting next week, I'll be back in Washington, D.C. Was going to start, actually, on Sunday. Now I'm going back on Monday because apparently there's all sorts of big storms hitting and everything else on the East Coast. And Southwest contacted me and said, you don't want to fly on Sunday. So I was like, all right. So anyway, flying back Monday, which means not doing a show Monday, probably. Let's see. Let's see what time I get home. But I may not be doing a show Monday. We'll find out. Anyway, welcome, everybody. Let me get rolling with TikTok here. TikTok, boom. There we go. And as always, we'll wait a couple minutes for folks to arrive, but we'll say hi in the meantime. Here we go. TikTok, very good. Boom. Introduce yourselves. Say where you're from. You know, I always like that. I think it's kind of fun to see people from all over the world. So give a hello. And how are you guys? Thursday. Excellent. Weather's not hideous in Chicago. Actually, next week in DC is going to be 60, which is insane. I mean, that happens in DC, but I don't know what that is in Celsius. It's good. Is it 16, 17 in Celsius? What is that? What is 60 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius? I was right, 15.6. I don't know my Celsius so well, but living in France a lot, I sort of had to figure out what Celsius was. So it's nice weather. Thank you, Sean. Anyway, hello, guys. As I said, we'll wait maybe another minute, give folks a chance to arrive, and then we'll get the show rolling here. Oh, boy. Привет, Marie. How are you? Hey, Jamie. Thank you for the snowman. Hello, user 116 in Ireland. Oh, boy. Anyway, just ran around, did some errands today. We did a Costco run. Thank you, Swan. For Mom, I didn't need anything at Costco right before I leave. Oh, lots of gifts here. Oh, hello. Thank you, Mustard. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Marcy, Poe, and Swan Person. Thank you, Swan Person. I am doing okay. Thank you, Mustard. My cold, I think now at least I feel like my cold is gone. It's still my chest coughing. I had this crazy cold for 2 weeks, and it's just been lingering, forever, but I think everybody else has it too. But at least I'm not like feeling sick anymore. It's just in the morning, I don't smoke, but it's as if I'm a smoker. I wake up and I'm like coughing. Thank you, LWD. Anyway, our generation of Clooney. I've gotten, you're saying I look like Clooney? No. I'm feeling better though, pretty well. Why don't Ukraine blog? I could call it Ukraine blog. I don't know. Manny's asking why I don't call this Ukraine blog. I don't know. I could. I'm never quite sure what to call the show, to be honest. Well, the thing too, actually, thank you, Andre. The thing is, the show started, this Aravosis Report, the show I do, started about 2 years ago, almost exactly, when the war in Ukraine broke out. I decided to do just a special live to talk about what was going on with the war. And everybody said, oh, okay, great. It's just like a Saturday. And people said, okay, tomorrow, same time. And I went, tomorrow? Are you crazy? Like we'd been talking for 2 hours or something. And I was like, you know what? If there's a news, I'll talk tomorrow. There was enough news. And I just started doing it every night. After several months, I lost my voice. So I switched from every night to 5 nights a week, Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern. And it just sort of kept going. But I've been doing Ukraine mostly, but when other big news comes in, like Israel and Gaza, I've covered a lot of that. U.S. election news, for sure, over the next year, I will be talking a lot about the U.S. election, presidential election, congressional elections too, but presidential is the most important. So that's going to be a big deal. So anyway, I don't call it Ukraine blog because, thank you, Joe, I know that it's going to be changing over the next year because it has to. My life has been working in politics, working in journalism, and everything else, that I feel it would be like I can't have the presidential election happen and not talk about it. It would kill me. So that's why. Blue Sky saying Cranston has a horrible cough, diagnosed with RSV. Ugh. Yeah, I had a nasty chest infection for 2 weeks, but then it got better. So I would, didn't turn into pneumonia or anything else. So but a lot of people in the area here in Chicago are getting colds, getting flus, getting COVID. It's like combination of everything. You know what I mean? So anyway, all right, guys, I'm going to get rolling here. So welcome. I do have I've got my map shirt back in DC. I will be wearing my map shirt again when I get back to DC in a few days. Any case, guys, so welcome. This is the Aravosis Report. It is my nightly show. Thank you, Lori. My nightly show I do Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S. And the show is devoted to Ukraine, but I also cover other topics. Today is going to be just Ukraine. I will do a quick update, though, about Iran, because there is some interesting news about that. Otherwise, today will be a Ukraine day. The way the show works, I go through the news that I think is interesting, that I think is important, using sort of my background in politics and international affairs. Thank you, Ellie. I've worked as a journalist. I've worked at The Economist. I'm a Springer there. I've got a background in foreign policy from a graduate degree from Georgetown, law degree from Georgetown, worked at the United Nations, lots of crazy work over the years. Okay, you guys, thank you, Tom. You guys on YouTube, apologize 1 quick second. There we go. I could see that the light behind me was sending out stars, so I just cleaned the screen for you all. In any case, but so using my background, I like to go and sort of pick the news I think is important and tell you about it. And then we open it up for questions. The way this works as well is second half of the show, take your guys' questions. Thank you, Tom and Star, for the gifts there, Mark and Vicky. Second half of the show, I take your questions, but I'm also will certainly, thank you, Eva, consider questions throughout. I do try to sort of check out your guys' comments as I'm doing the show. Basically, the way I do it is I go at a bunch of different news and I literally write up a little script for each show I do. So when I'm reading part of the script, I may not see the comments you put, so just be aware. But sometimes I grab comments. But anyway, second half of the show is all comments, is all your guys' opinions. So, and it's usually at least half the time of the show is talking to you guys. So fret not. Final point. If you want to, I very much appreciate gifts because they are what help the show go. I do this full time. I've been doing it for free since the war broke out. In order to do it full time, I'm not rich, so I'm able to pay my bills with your guys' donations, with the gift you guys give and everything else. So please do keep that coming. Thank you, Timothy. Gifts on TikTok. I will always do a shout out. Thank you, Carol, for the gifts that pop up on the screen like that. Who's that? Red with the snowman. Vicky with the bracelet. Whenever, assuming I see it. Thank you, Carol. Sometimes I don't see all the gifts. Thank you, Elizabeth. And for the audio shaky, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. The audio shaky again on YouTube. Unbelievable. This drives me bonkers. Thank you, Lori. Now, the funny part is on TikTok, it's fine, which makes me think it's not my internet. I think it might be the microphone just being evil. Hold on, I'm going to try this again here. Actually, let me ask. I'm doing a test here, by the way, for YouTube. When I'm shaking right here, is it going really bad? I was just shaking the connection. Now I stopped shaking the connection on YouTube. No? You know what I might do? I may just unplug my microphone, guys, and set YouTube to be my computer mic. It's not going to be perfect. TikTok, I know TikTok's always been very good. TikTok's been very good. All right, you know what? Hold on. Sorry, guys. Always like to do a little thing. Audio. All right, audio. Blue. Actually, I wonder if I could do it on my phone. That's it. Blue Snowball. Let me do Mac. Sorry, guys, on TikTok. I'm trying to help the YouTube folks here. Okay, I have just switched it to my Mac right now. How is that, guys? Using my Mac microphone. Is it tolerable on YouTube? Sorry, TikTokers, I know you're okay. We're just trying to fix what I do is I stream on TikTok on my iPad, and I stream on YouTube and stuff on my computer, my laptop. So, but when I'm traveling, I'm not using my good mic. Oh, I love that gift, by the way, Andy. Thank you. That's my favorite is the reindeer, the Rudolph with the nose. And they only put it up a few days before Christmas, so I didn't get to promote it as much. Okay, thank you, guys, on you. I'll just use the computer mic for right now. Okay. Well, you know what? We'll find out on Tuesday when I'm back in D.C. if it was the mic itself, because if the connection's fine, then I'm just going to, I'm going to buy a new mic. Anyway, guys, all right. So let's get rolling here. When I shook, it got worse. I think it's the connection. Yeah. Well, anyway, we're using my computer mic now. All right, guys, let's get rolling here. So we were talking about Ukraine, the latest news from Ukraine. Today is day 679 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. Thank you, Big John. Actually, I have another mic that's very similar to that one I'm using. Thank you, Boy Mom, for the 2024 gift. Ukraine launched a drone and missile attack at Crimea today, which is the territory in southern Ukraine the Russians took in 2014. Not clear what happened there. There were a lot of reports several hours ago that there was a big attack going on, drones, missiles, maybe even some storm shadows, which is interesting for Ukraine. But we haven't got any details yet. And I was checking literally right before the show, right couple of minutes ago right now, and there still aren't any details of what Ukraine attacked and how it went. So I'm assuming over the next several hours we'll know. But just kind of, if you follow the news regularly, keep an eye on what might have happened in Ukraine today. I mean, in Crimea. I mean, thank you, L Life and LWD. The ATACMS. So this was interesting. Expired ATACMS. A story came out from Newsweek, and Newsweek, by the way, is not the publication it used to be. Newsweek used to be one of America's top magazines, one of the top news sources. I mean, writing for Newsweek was a huge deal. Newsweek was really cool. What it is now is not. They sold it to a lot of different people. It's just not as big a deal anymore, unfortunately. Newsweek reported that the U.S. had a number of ATACMS missiles that were expired, and it was going to we were basically going to throw them out, was the report. Well, the issue is, well, let me step back a second. ATACMS, what are ATACMS? ATACMS are the missiles that Ukraine has been wanting for years now, okay? That all the defense experts said would make a huge deal for Ukraine, and that the White House said, no, Ukraine doesn't need them. It won't matter. Well, finally, a couple months ago, Biden caves, and Zelensky had visited Washington, right? Like 3 months ago now, maybe, or so. Zelensky visits Washington, and Biden announces he's giving Ukraine some ATACMS. Two problems. Biden only gave Ukraine short-range ATACMS. He didn't give them the long-range ones that they wanted. As people are saying on TikTok, you are correct. That was the first problem. Second problem, he didn't give them. He only gave them the cluster bomb version. There's a version that has like a big bomb, and a version that has like 100 little bombs. And the 100 little bombs can be useful in their own right, but Ukraine wasn't really looking for the cluster bomb version. The final problem is we only gave them like 20. We gave them like 20 of these things. That's it. And it's not like you use one per attack. Ukraine could use 3 or 6 of these missiles per attack. So some of the people I talked to said Ukraine probably got 3 good attacks out of the missiles we gave them. And by the way, that month, though, to Biden's credit, we did hear about those attacks. We heard, holy crap, these attacks caused a huge difference. These were great, very important. And then we heard nothing. Nothing. Because guess what? Ukraine used the ATACMS. They only had like 3 volleys of them, right? And we never gave them any more. That was it. No more. Thank you for this. So what's going on now is Newsweek reports that allegedly Biden was planning on just throwing them out. He was just gonna throw out the ATACMS that were there, right? Didn't matter. But they were expired. Wasn't going to give them to Ukraine. So the White House got asked about it today and said, or the Pentagon actually got asked about it today and said, no, we're not throwing those ATACMS out. Don't worry. The problem is the Pentagon did not say we're giving ATACMS to Ukraine. It's because we're not throwing them out. Why are we giving them to Ukraine? Who the hell knows? I'm about to actually, the next story I'm going to talk about is that guess what has been happening in terms of who is providing weapons. The U.S. isn't providing weapons to Ukraine. Thank you for noticing at all now, because the Republicans have cut off the budget. The way the U.S. budget works is probably a lot like other countries. I'm going to guess here, but I'll tell you at least how America works. I used to work in the U.S. Senate, and basically, for the president to be able to give weapons to Ukraine or give money to Ukraine, whether to help their economy or whether loans and money to buy, more weapons from other Europeans, you need legislation. And the way Biden was doing it is he'd go to Congress and say, the last one, for example, he said, I want $20 billion of wait, hold on a second. Guys on YouTube, there's nothing else I can do. We're using the computer mic right now. We're not using anything else. That's all we're using. Thank you, LWD. So nothing else I can do. Plug this. All I'm saying is it's what it is. It shouldn't be too bad connection. It shouldn't be bad connection, but it's just kind of confusing me now with you guys talking about it. So I hear you. Nothing else we can do. I don't know why it's doing noise. You know what? I'll refresh the screen one more time. Sorry. All right, best I can do there. Yep, audio, MacBook Pro built in is best I can do. There must be some connection that's doing weird stuff. All right, in any case, back to ATACMS. I know, TikTok, the sound is great. So what do you do? You guys are lucky. Yeah, the mic is disconnected. I've got it going through the computer now. It's, what do you do? Tech problems come and go. What do you do? Sorry, TikTokers or YouTubers, there's only so much I can do. So back to this. So you've got, we were saying ATACMS. Ukraine needs the ATACMS. The White House only gives them a small number. White House only gives them the missiles that can go a short distance, only gives them the cluster, not the big ones, right? That's it. What's happening now? U.S. still, now, okay, the Republicans have refused, I was thinking about the budget, I'm sorry. But basically, what happened is Biden last time around said many months ago, Congress, give me the authority to give Ukraine 20 billion with the dollars worth of weapons. Okay, Congress passed it and said, okay, Biden, for the rest of the year or whatever, you can spend up to $20 billion, and you got it. So thank you, LWD. That's cute. Thank you, LWD. That's very generous and very cute. So that's what Congress says. Congress says 20 billion, you got it, go for it. Well, once that runs out, once you spend the 20 billion, you've got to go back to Congress and get more authority, because it's as if, honestly, it's like an allowance, maybe is the way of putting it. Okay, it's like your allowance that your parents give you when you're a kid. In this case, your parents are the Congress. They're the ones that control the money. Congress says, we are going to give you $20 billion. That's your allowance for this year, and that's what you get. And once you spend it, you don't have any more money. So the president doesn't have other money he can tap. Now, some people ask, for example, well, why doesn't he go to the rest of the defense budget? Here's the problem. It's illegal. When Congress passes the defense budget, they don't just say, the American defense budget is very large, like 800 and some billion dollars, right? Congress doesn't just say, well, thank you, LWD, for the gift on TikTok. Oh, that's fun. That's the one that it's a different postcard each time that comes up. Thank you for that one. Congress doesn't just pass $800 billion and say, here's $800 billion, spend it on whatever you want. No, Congress says, this money is going for procurement. This money is going for this weapon system, they'll even say. Right? This money is going for military bases. This money is going for training, right? It's all earmarked for very specific things. It is literally illegal for Biden or any president to go to the Defense Department budget and say, yes, you provided this money to build, I don't know, 20 new F-16s, but I'm instead going to spend the money on Patriot missiles and I'm going to give them to Ukraine. Totally illegal. Totally illegal. Thank you, Dawn. So that's why Biden had to go back to Congress and he had to say, okay, I need you to approve more money that I can spend for Ukraine. And the Republicans in Congress are saying no. There you go. Thank you for the gift, Pedro and Dawn. People are being very picky today on TikTok. I'm not sure why. It's very. Are we having like a bad news day or something? I'm feeling the Zen is kind of rude on TikTok today. Ashley's noticing it too. There's a I don't know what it is, like just a little bit of a take a chill pill. Thank you, Sally, for the hands. And Pedro and Dawn. Take a chill, guys. It's serious news. I get it. Well, it is troll day. It is troll day, but I think some of the other folks are just cranky. Perfect word too. Yes. Thank you, Lori. It's cranky day. It's very actually YouTube as well. People are very cranky today. Relax. Right? Just relax. Just finish the holiday. Although granted, for some people the holidays is stressful. I love holidays, but I'm always surprised people who like the holidays they don't like. But I know people that are that way. I had a friend years ago who hated Christmas, and he told me, oh, thank you for the heart there, Joe. He told me he was going home for Christmas, and I think was like flying in that morning, Christmas morning, and flying out that afternoon. And I was like, are you crazy? You're flying in for 3 hours? And he was like, I can't stand being with my family. And, fair enough, though. Some people don't have, good family relations or whatever, but it always blew my mind that the holidays are stressful because, I love holidays. I really do. It's stressful not having a holiday as far as I'm concerned. In any case, so you've got the U.S. not providing attackers to Ukraine. You've got Germany not providing Taurus cruise missiles, right? That's true. That's a little pointer. Ocean saying holidays are a lot of work, especially for women. No, that's true. Holidays, if you're having parties and dinners and everything else, it can be a lot of work. And at least in traditional families, the women are still the ones doing a lot of the cooking and everything else. So, and nowadays they're working too. So the women are working. They're probably moms, a lot of them, which often encompasses more child care than the dads. In a lot of families, it's that way. And they're cooking all the meals in addition to working. So very true, very true. Um, so yeah, so the Germans are refusing to provide Taurus missiles to Ukraine. It's Scholz's. He's the reason. People say I love women. We all love women. Okay. Um, Scholz in Germany, the chancellor, is the one that basically is refusing to provide the cruise missiles. He's claiming the Ukrainians don't need them. It's like they don't need them. They're literally running out of weapons. What do you mean they don't need them? Right? This war's going to go on for years. U.S. is refusing to provide more ATACMS missiles. The Russians, on the other hand, just got missiles they've already used in North Korea. They've got a new shipment coming in from Iran. Let me tell you a little bit about that. The White House today said that North Korea is providing Russia with ballistic missiles that the Russians are already using to attack Ukraine. They've already used them. Your North Korean missiles have a range of 550 miles. That's thank you for the snow globe Fnudis and the hat, Scott. The North Korean missiles have a range of 550 miles. That's like 750 kilometers, I think, more or less. The concern with that is the Russians can fire at Ukraine from inside Russia because the missiles are long distance enough, and it's harder for Ukraine to hit them, in part just because it's farther, right? So there's only certain things you can use to go that far. And by the way, we won't give Ukraine the things that go really far because we're jerks, as other Germans. Second of all, if they position the rocket launchers, for example, inside Russia, what problem do you think happens as a result of Ukraine trying to hit it back? NATO goes, we don't want you firing weapons at Russia inside Russia. We only want you to fire weapons at Russians inside Ukraine. So if Russia puts its missiles inside Russia on the ground and Ukraine were to hit it, Ukraine risks hitting Russians and blah, 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 this kind of stuff. And NATO goes, no, not all of NATO, but the U.S. goes, and I'm going to guess the Germans and the French go, is my guess. The Brits probably go, yeah, go for it. Right? But we get all weird about it. So this is why the North Korean missiles are no problem. A little bit more on the North Korean missiles. This was New York Times here analysis. Such a move by North Korea poses two major challenges for the U.S. It suggests that Russia is bolstering its own production of missiles with new supplies at a time when Congress is still holding up additional aid. We know that. It suggests that Russia, which once this was a good point from the New York Times. It suggests that Russia, which once cooperated with the U.S. in trying to restrain North Korea's nuclear and missile programs, is now considering helping the North Koreans develop better delivery systems. So in other words, Russia at one time was working with us in trying to restrain North Korea. Now Russia is working to improve North Korea's weapon systems in exchange for Russia getting the weapons they could use to attack Ukraine. Ukraine, obviously. Finally, here we go. Final paragraph of the Times. This is good. Russia has rebuilt its own domestic supply of cruise missiles and shorter-range missiles and artillery, despite Western financial sanctions. But to keep up with the intensity of the barrage against Ukraine, Russia has been turning to North Korea and Iran. That's the next story. Kirby said the range of the missiles now being shipped from North Korea meant they could be launched from well inside Russia, where launch sites are harder for Ukraine to kill, as I said. Second story, Wall Street Journal reports, but this is all over the news today, that Russia is planning to buy short-range ballistic missiles from Iran. So not only are they getting missiles from North Korea that are already firing at Ukraine, Russia is now in the process of working out a deal with Iran to get short-range missiles. The delivery of the missiles could happen as soon as this spring, if the purchase proceeds, according to U.S. officials. The Iranian missiles would add, this is from Wall Street Journal, the Iranian missiles would add to Moscow's recent acquisitions. U.S. fears that Russia's growing cooperation with Iran will not only help Moscow's war effort in Ukraine, but also strengthen Iran's military capabilities in the Middle East, potentially provide revenue to bolster its economy. Anyway, bad news, obviously. And again, it just pisses me off because of the larger picture here, that Russia is finding new allies or increased allies, shipments of missiles from its allies, while the rest of us are basically exactly, Lord Farts a lot. Thank you. Crazy name. Good point you raised there, by the way. Just raised a nice point about all the sound problems I'm having. Marinka. So this is a city in eastern Ukraine. Thank you, Elizabeth. It has not been very well from Ukrainians. As I recall, hang on. Marinka, I'm going to bet. It's right near Donetsk. what I recall is Avdiivka, the one town is northwest of Donetsk. Marinka, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Marinka, I believe, is sort of southwest of Donetsk over here. And they are two towns that the Russians have been trying really hard to take. Neither one particularly significant in terms of strategic. I mean, strategic, they're not that significant. There's some significance, but it's not like, oh my God, Marinka fell and now Ukraine's in trouble, right? Nonetheless, the New York Times is reporting that it looks like Marinka pretty much has fallen, is what the Times is saying. Uh, they say that the Ukrainian military said today that its troops were fighting in the vicinity of Marinka. A strong indication, Times, a strong indication that Kyiv's forces have lost control of the town more than a week after Moscow claimed to have seized it. Open source maps of the battlefield also show that Russian troops have a foothold throughout Marinka. General Zaluzhny, who is the Ukraine's top general, right? He's the commander-in-chief. Well, maybe Zelensky's commander-in-chief, I don't know. But Zaluzhny is the top guy running the war effort. Acknowledged last week that Ukrainian troops have all but retreated to the outskirts. And the New York Times says that even though Marinka isn't that important, it does show that the Russians have initiative in the war right now, which is big. So it's not a good thing. Belgium announced it's going to send 2 F-16 fighter jets and 50 training personnel to Denmark to help train the Ukrainian pilots. Also, they're going to be training Ukrainian, who have I got here? Pilots, technicians, and mission planners. Germany is providing more aid to Ukraine. They're still not giving the Taurus missiles, but they are giving other things. Germany handed over a Skynex air defense system. God, it sounds like Skynex. Doesn't it sound like the Terminator? The Terminator, like defense manufacturer that destroyed Skynet. That's what it is. Skynex. Oh my God. Thank you, Ellie. I mean, it's one letter different. Skynex instead of Skynet. Now, they had to have done that on purpose. They just had to have. That's just too funny. They provided a Skynex air defense system, 10 Marder armored vehicles, ammunition for Leopard tanks, and other aid. More than 220 Russian soldiers have surrendered to Ukraine via the I Want to Live hotline as of December. Another 1,000 cases are pending. This is a hotline that the Ukrainians set up shortly after the war started. And they use cell phones, but they also use social media networks. I don't know if they're using WhatsApp or one of the social media networks that the Ukrainians use a lot, and the Russians use. And they set up a system or something called "I Want to Live" in Russian, "Я хочу жить," or whatever it is in Russian. And it is basically a way for Russian troops to contact the Ukrainian government secretly. Thank you, Tigger, for the gift. Contact the Ukrainian government secretly and say, I want to defect. On Telegram? Okay, thank you, Sebastian. It's on Telegram. I want to defect. I don't want to fight anymore. Additionally, if the Russian soldier defects with some equipment, tank, plane, helicopter, they can also get payment and basically set up for life. Like a lot of money, help with a new apartment, all sorts of stuff. So they're saying 220 soldiers have already surrendered. Another 1,000 cases are being worked on. This story made foreign nationals who join Russia's armed forces will be able to apply for Russian citizenship, according to a new decree signed by Putin today. I just always have to laugh at that because I'm sure there's somebody who's desperate enough, right? I mean, let's face it, Russia's not a great place. But if you're from a country where you're destitute, I suppose Russia's better, I guess, maybe. I mean, you move to a dictatorship, but things in Moscow and Leningrad are pretty Moscow and St. Petersburg are pretty good if you're rich. The rest of the country, not so much. But it just made me laugh. Like you mentioned, hey, I think I'd like to go fight in a war where I'm probably going to get killed. But if I win, the prize I get is Russian citizenship. Whoa! Hooray! Wild Hunt says fleeing a murder charge. Exactly. Right. If you're a criminal, sure. Why not go to Russia? Hell, if you're a criminal, it's a perfect place to go, isn't it? Finally, Iran. So our Iran story to you, bring your own BYOT, bring your own toilet to Russia. Is it 20%? Someone said 20%. I thought it was more than that. Is it only 20% now of the country? Not only, but 20% of the country that doesn't have an inside toilet? Somebody Google and see. Like Russia, that's one of the sort of the things with Russia that's so bad. They don't even have indoor plumbing. I mean, it's really 20% of the country doesn't have toilets. I mean, you got to like an outhouse or something. It's nasty. Um, so 22%. Okay, thanks, Dave. So Iran, a quick little story on Iran, just to follow up. You remember we talked the other day that there was an explosion in Iran, and basically it was at the tomb of General Soleimani. Soleimani was a top Iranian general, like the number two general, and the U.S. blew him up in a drone strike. Trump administration killed him. The Iranians were pissed, and he's a big hero in Iran, revered by the people there. So they were doing their annual pilgrimage to his tomb, and two bombs went off and killed like over 100 people. I mean, it was a really vicious terrorist attack. And we were trying to figure out yesterday, like, what could it be? Could it be Israel? And we were saying, probably not Israel. U.S., no way. I was saying it kind of made me feel like it was somebody inside Iran, like internal battles. One of the guys, maybe I'm forgetting, was it Kelly yesterday, had said could have been false. Thank you, Booty, for the 2024 glasses. Could have been Iranian government itself trying to sort of blow things up and say, oh, look at the attacks from Israel, this kind of thing. Well, guess who came forward and confessed that they did it? Islamic State, ISIS, or as you guys in Europe call them, Daesh. They came forward and said they did it. Basically, ISIS goes a long way back with Iran, hating each other. 84 people were killed, okay, in Kerman, Iran. ISIS said that the attack was a dual martyrdom operation, and they described how two of their terrorists, I love how the paper always says militants. Like, they always say militants. The New York Times calls them militants. Since when are ISIS people militants? Like, what's the deal with that? Right? They're not militants, they're terrorists. It's ISIS we're talking about. This isn't like, like some controversial, like it's not really clear what we call them. It's ISIS. They're terrorists. So you don't have to call them militants. But in any case, two of them strapped bombs on. I call them Daesh because that's what they are in French. You guys, do we say dash? Do the Brits say dash? Do you say dash? Is that how you call them? Is it literally dash? That's funny. We say ISIS anyway here at Islamic State. But in French, it's Daesh, D-A-E-S-H, which is why I call them Daesh if I have to use the word. But I didn't know how you guys say it in Britain. Do you say dash? That sounds like dash. I'm going to dash to the market. Islamic State, yeah, it's easier. Thank you, James. That's sort of, I think. Anyway, so the dash, that's funny. Okay, no, we don't. Okay, well, that's good to know. Let me see, anything else here? Let me see. The general, a little bit more from the Times. The general, a widely revered and feared Iranian military officer who was the architect of an Iranian-led and funded alliance of Shiite groups across the Middle East, was assassinated 4 years ago in a drone strike. The Islamic State, a Sunni Muslim organization, considers its mission to kill apostate Muslims, including Shiites. Iran, a major Shiite country led by a theocratic government. So very interesting. Yeah. So kind of fascinating. Yeah, I thought, like I said, Daesh is what I've seen. I've never seen it as Dash. I've seen it as D-A-E-S-H. But in any case, all right, guys, that's it for the news for today. We're back to sort of our old schedule of doing half an hour of news, which is not a bad thing. And let's take your guys' questions, take your comments, your opinions on Ukraine. We can talk about other stuff too. Like we did yesterday, we sort of got off on lots of topics, but that wasn't bad. Mom is good, thank you. She's inside, possibly cooking. Hard to say. Read the trail. You mean the trial of Israel? Are you talking about the International Criminal Court or what? I don't know that a trial was starting today. I don't think so, was it? I mean, Israel was going to go and explain why the accusations from South Africa weren't valid, but I don't know sort of what happened next from that. You're welcome, Nazbreyatalito. Anyway, why USA put Ukraine in the war? What is the goal? I'm not sure what your question means exactly. I will say it is not clear what the U.S. goal is in the war. That is not clear at all. And I've said this repeatedly, but and it's funny too, actually, because you guys sort of get it. When I say this on Twitter, all the like Democrats freak out and go, stop being mean to Biden. But Biden doesn't want Ukraine to win. As I've said this before, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Biden wants a tie. The concern is, in the Biden administration, that I'm sure someone told him this. We don't want Russia to win because it would be a disaster. If Russia takes all of Ukraine, it destabilizes Eastern Europe. Poland would be on a war footing. It puts the Baltic countries in danger. All sorts of problems. Right? It puts the Russians on NATO's border instead of Ukraine being a buffer. All sorts of problems. Right? But so we don't want Russia to win, but we also don't want Ukraine to win. I do, but I'm talking for Biden. If Ukraine wins the war, then Ukraine gets back all of the territory Russia took. And not only does Ukraine take back all of this land that Russia took in the last 2 years, Ukraine takes back Crimea, the big diamond that Russia stole in 2014 that Putin really doesn't want to lose. And if Putin loses Crimea, he has nuclear weapons. Who knows what he's going to do? Who knows? And that's the bullshit that Biden is thinking. It's absolutely ridiculous. We have therefore curtailed what we give even before the Republicans cut aid to Ukraine. We refused to give Ukraine weapons. The weapons we gave them, we didn't give them much. We gave them sort of simpler versions. We didn't want to give them the advanced versions. We didn't want to give them HIMARS. I think in the beginning, we didn't want to give them Stingers at the beginning. We didn't want to give them Patriot missiles. We didn't want to give them tanks. We didn't want to give them planes. We wouldn't even give them MiG fighter jets at the beginning. Poland wanted to give like 200 MiG fighter jets to Ukraine. And the Germans and the Americans both went, no, scary. So it didn't, at least from what we know, it didn't happen. There's a story that Poland broke the missiles apart IKEA style and provided the planes and provided them as spare parts to Ukraine. But of course, they weren't spare parts. They may have been the entire plane disassembled to look like spare parts. Like I said, it was like Poland's own IKEA movement there, which is kind of cool if it's true. But otherwise, this is what we've been doing from the beginning. Is we didn't want Ukraine to win. We didn't want Ukraine to lose. So depending on what your question actually meant earlier, I don't know what the U.S. goal is. Or I should say, what Biden's goal is to have a negotiation. Biden wants a negotiation. And to put Ukraine in the best, I can guarantee you, put Ukraine in the best position for a negotiation with Russia to settle the war. And that's the bullshit that Biden's been doing. The problem is, if you don't let Ukraine win, there is no negotiation. Russia is just going to come back in 5 to 10 years. Now, I will say this. I mean, Cerveza says Biden needs to go. Here's the problem. Trump would have been worse. Because Trump is the one who previously said that Crimea belongs to Russia. They speak Russian anyway. They want to be Russian. Trump would say the same thing about the East. Trump has been very critical of the war in Ukraine. Trump did not want to fund Ukraine. He did not want to support Ukraine. And pretty much Trump supports Putin at every step of the way. So I will be critical of Biden here, and I think the criticism is valid. But the idea that Biden needs to go or he's done a terrible job, Trump would have been worse. Had Trump won last time, Trump would be worse if Trump won this time. And he's made that clear. Unless, of course, you support Putin, then Trump would be great. But I will say that does not excuse Biden. That does not excuse Biden. Nikki Haley, yes, Deep Blue says, do you think Nikki Haley wants to win the war? Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Nikki Haley, I think, would be good. For Ukraine, I'm not going to say Nikki Haley on anything else, right? Let's just talk about Ukraine right now. On Ukraine, Nikki Haley is one of the Republican presidential now candidates. She is gaining in popularity. Trump is still by far the favorite, by far. But Haley, I think, is quickly becoming the number two if she isn't the number two already behind Trump. The problem is her number two could be 15%, whereas Trump is at 60% of the vote. It's not good, right? It's not good at all. Ramaswamy's horrific. Somebody asked how Vivek Ramaswamy is. He's horrific. He literally has been repeating Kremlin conspiracy talking points about Ukraine. He's that bad. No, Ramaswamy is not he speaks very well, but he's been literally repeating the conspiracy theories. Oh, it's been proven Zelensky went and bought houses with the aid. No, it has not been. This is literally, when I say literally, I mean literally Russian propaganda the guy is quoting. It's ridiculous. But no, Nikki Haley, very good. The other thing is, for Ukraine, Nikki Haley would be very good because Democrats will support Ukraine anyway because they get it. Democrats are not going to, okay, let me rephrase this. Democrats overall, even if Biden lost, Democrats overall would be very good about Ukraine, but you'd have some of the anti-war Democrats on the left who would become more vocal about it. They wouldn't like it. You might get the AOCs and the Omars and the Tlaibs and others. The socialist wing of the Democratic Party might speak up and start to raise noise because they no longer have to defend Biden. Because there's always that dynamic when it's your guy who's the president and you're in Congress, you kind of have to side with him, even if you don't agree entirely, right? So some Democrats might not be as supportive, but I think most would. And for Republicans, it would be very interesting if you had your president be super anti-Putin and super pro-Ukraine. It would, I think, change the dynamic in the Republican Party. A lot of members of Congress of Republicans would probably be more empowered to speak out. Some of the negatives wouldn't be as negative. You still have Trump going in the background, but for Ukraine alone, it'd be great if Nikki Haley got elected. Yes, but I'm not a one-issue voter. There's a lot of other issues I care about, but for Ukraine, it would be more beneficial to have a Republican asking for aid right now than a Democrat. Yes, because also part of the problem is because Trump has been so anti-Ukraine and pro-Putin, it presents the issue, I think, for too many people as being Democrat versus Republican, rather than no, it's Ukraine versus Russia, right? Thank you, Charles. And you know what I mean? Like this is it's not Democrats being Democrats. Not to mention, Democrats going after Russia is sort of a new thing. That's not really a Democrat thing. Thank you, Sir. So it would help. It would help for Nikki Haley to be president on the Ukraine issue, not necessarily on any other issue I care about, but on that it would. When you talk more about the election, could you explain about the different runners as well? Yeah, I'm not going to go through all. I mean, honestly, the big ones right now on the Democratic side, there's only Biden. On the Republican side, Trump is still the winner. I mean, Trump is the number one by far in the polls. The number two, get you guys again here. The number two might be Nikki Haley now, maybe, because Ron DeSantis, who is the governor in Florida, has been doing so badly. He was the one that they thought might be the one to beat Trump, right? He's been doing so badly that he's pretty much toast. Vivek, that other weirdo, not doing great. RFK Jr. is a lunatic. RFK Jr. has been Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He has been doing well in the polls. He's talking about running as an independent. Some of the polls have him getting 10, 20%, which is scary, depending, because you don't know who's he taking it from. Would he take it from Democrats? Would he take it from Republicans? The problem with RFK is he's crazy. He is pretty much, his campaign is about vaccine skepticism. It's about being anti-vax. That's pretty much his entire campaign. He just made his spokesman one of the top anti-vaxxers in the country. He just made his campaign spokesman. I mean, this is all RFK is doing. And by the way, he's not somebody who, had some concerns about the COVID vaccine. That's not who he is. When I say anti-vax, I mean literally anti-vax. RFK Jr., we'll stop after, we don't have to stop. We can keep talking about whatever you want. RFK Jr. was on CNN or NBC last week. I forget which station, but I was watching the interview. And the host says, he's in person, and she says, so, this summer you got into some trouble for saying that you believed that that no vaccine has been proven effective and no vaccine has been proven safe. I never said that. I never said that. And she goes, okay, let's roll the tape. Literally, she cut him off and goes, let's roll the tape. And they played a 1-minute tape, which is great too, because it wasn't like 10 seconds. 1 minute of him on this long tirade about COVID. And he goes, and there isn't a single vaccine that has been proven to be effective. And there isn't a single vaccine that has been proven to be safe. And cuts back to him and he goes, well, yeah, that's not. I have seen him do this repeatedly. He has done this repeatedly. He's a liar. I am not happy. I'm not happy if he's a COVID denier or an anti-vax or anything else. I am even less happy if you're a liar about it. At least have the balls to be anti-vax and say, yeah, I don't think vaccines are real. Like, I mean, I know people like this. Think adventures. I know people who, and they kind of worry me, but what do you do? You know, a friend from high school who doesn't believe in vaccines, and she's not even getting her dog vaccinated. And I was like, and I was very nice. I listened to her very nicely. I was like, well, okay, I still kind of think it works. You know, I mean, what do you do, right? She's nice, but I'm not thrilled with this review. But at least she owns it. Whereas Kennedy is out there promoting the anti-vax conspiracy theories, and every time he gets asked about it in an interview, he denies it, and then the images come up, and it's him doing it again. You know. So anyway, that's my problem with him, guys. He used to be a two-issue guy because he used to be a really big environmental activist. Thank you, Timothy. Like that was his big thing was the environment, which is great, right? We love the environment. I mean, that's great. Thank you, Timothy. But he was the environment, and now he's anti-vax, but he's anti-vax conspiracy theory. That is all he does now. And like I said, he's hiring the anti-vaxxers too. Thank you, Marcy. So really freaky. Which politicians are not liars? I mean, I think a lot of them are not liars. In principle, I mean, Chris Christie can be a bit of an ass. I don't think he's a liar. Joe Biden's not a liar. Nikki Haley is not a liar. I don't like her per se on a lot of issues, but she's not. I don't think she's a liar. Donald Trump is a pathological liar. Vivek's just kind of stupid and trying to be Trump. He's not even. Vivek is literally. This is the Indian American guy who's running for Republicans. He's just saying whatever he needs to say to get elected. He wants to be Trump to be vice president, I think. You know, so it depends. It depends. But yeah, Nikki Haley had a big blow up about the Civil War last week. She's the one who last week at a campaign event, somebody, I think a young person, whoever, asked her and said, "What do you think the cause is?" This 2 weeks ago. What do you think the cause was of America's Civil War? Right, when the North and the South went to war, and she gave this weird answer about it was about freedom to choose, or some really weird thing, and everybody was like, "No, it was about slavery. It wasn't about freedom to choose or whatever the hell that means." And what a lot of Republicans said was, it seemed that she even said the next day it was a trick question. It was a Democrat in the audience trying to ask a trick question, right? And what's scary about that is it's not a trick question. It's the Civil War. What was the cause of the Civil War? Slavery. Very easy question. Lots of little other causes, but the number one cause was slavery. Easy question. And thank you, Tigger. By calling it a trick question, you're saying that my answer on this is going to get me in trouble no matter what I say. Why would it get you in trouble to say slavery is bad and like literally enslaving black people was bad in America, and that was what caused the Civil War because, you know, we didn't like the enslavement of black people. Why is that controversial? That should not be controversial, right? She thought it was controversial. Scarily enough, maybe it is controversial. I don't know with the Republican voters. I don't know. Republican base, I mean. But it was a big scandal. I am not thrilled that she did that. Thank you, Adventures. As I said, Nikki Haley's great on Ukraine. She unfortunately still plays a bit of a game. She did this on Trump too. She's being anti-Trump again right now. She's gone back and forth on Trump multiple times. She worked for him at the United Nations. She was anti-Trump before. She was anti-Trump after. She goes back and forth on Trump. Well, now she's been going hard against Trump for the last couple of days, calling him a liar and stuff. This is new from her. She's been very kiss up to Trump before. What worries me about her is she needs to. Who does she remind me of? Mitt Romney, in some ways. Mitt Romney was this way. Mitt Romney was a liberal Republican, and when he ran for president in 2012, he decided he was going to pretend he was a conservative. He's not a conservative. He just should have owned who he was. And she's doing this too. She seems like she's playing games back and forth, and I don't think that's smart. But who knows? You know? I mean, you don't flip. It's true. You don't flip-flop. Stick out of view, Rubio. I think Rubio's smarmy. I don't know how to translate smarmy for some of you abroad, but I think he's just smarmy. I like Mitt Romney, really. But Mitt Romney's another one who I think in the end he was so moderate. Sometimes you find with moderates, And honestly, this is also, I think, the nature of being a moderate. Moderates are not fire breathers. Moderates are not warriors, usually, right? So Romney was kind of, you know, good guy, moderate Republican, liberal Republican, whatever word you want to use. As Republicans go, right? A lot of very progressive views. I think I think he actually could have won being his real self against Obama potentially. You know, businessman, but not a stereotypical Republican, right? And he pretended he was this more conservative guy because that's who the Republican Party wanted, you know. Um, but no, I think yeah, Romney, I think, could have done well. You know, what do you do? Why can't we have a good candidate? Yeah, but that's sort of the issue. I mean, elections are this way, though. I mean, I always sort of say this, like people get upset, you know, like even people also get upset with the, oh, that's a Mormon thing. Maybe it is a Mormon thing where there's, maybe that is it, where a little bit of being good but not rocking the boat. I don't know, right? Um, you know, the why can't we have good candidates thing is kind of funny, only because in the end we still pick the candidates. I think it's a bit of a conspiracy theory, like, oh, Bernie didn't win because the party was against him. Bernie didn't win in 2020 either, right? Biden is so old and blah blah blah. Yeah, but guess what? Guess who Democrats wanted in 2020? They wanted Joe Biden. He won. He didn't just win against Trump, but I mean, he won against all the other Democrats. Black women wanted Joe Biden. Well, guess what? They're Democrats too. They get a voice. And more of their voice, not just black women, but more voices that like Biden voted for him than voted for the other guys. I mean, so you get into sort of this weird thing when people say, we don't. You had a choice. There were lots of people to vote for in 2020. That's not true, really. No. You had lots of choices. No way. No way. Kamala Harris, an African American woman, very liberal. Elizabeth Warren, white woman, very liberal. Pete Buttigieg, gay guy, very moderate, but a gay man, very interesting, very moderate. We had several other black candidates. We had Asian American candidates. We had Biden, traditional white guy candidate. Bernie Sanders, socialist white guy candidate. We had a lot of different people running on the Democratic side, very much so. So I really don't buy it. I think there were a lot of people, and guess what? Usually, especially when you've got, keep in mind, Democrats had like 22 candidates at one point running for president. When you've got 22 candidates running, it's a pretty good guess that your guy or gal isn't going to win. So you're going to be in a situation where you go, my person didn't win. Well, more often than not, that's what happens. You don't always get your person to be the nominee, you know? No, I mean, I think it's a lot of, I mean, Obama, I'm trying to remember. I liked Obama over Hillary back in 2008. I did. Early on, I mean. But a lot of times you don't get your person, I liked Pete. I kind of thought Biden was the best person to win, to beat Trump. Thank you, James. And who knows if he was best, but he did, he did beat him, obviously. Haley is a libertarian in neocon clothing, possibly. But again, I think she's, I don't know what it is with some people. She doesn't have the courage of her convictions, as they say. She is always trying to triangulate, like answering the question about slavery. Oh, I know I was going to tell you, one of the Republicans that I was reading online said you could tell when Nikki Haley got asked that question about what was the cause of the Civil War. She knew the answer was slavery, but she already in her head started going, uh-oh, this is danger, danger. This is a dangerous question. I better be careful. I'm going to start being careful. I'm not going to say the word slavery. Like she's always kind of triangulating and looking for danger rather than saying, here's what I believe. Now, Chris Christie, interesting. Very funny. Dark Bamboozle just mentioned Christie. Chris Christie is former governor of New Jersey, Republican, moderate in some ways, conservative in others. He's anti-abortion, very anti-abortion. So not liberal in that ways, liberal, whatever, moderate in other ways. He was the first Republican to support, the first big one to support Trump, which is not good. He also was a big supporter of Trump until the very end. I mean, until right before the election of 2020. Christie finally stopped supporting Trump because Trump almost killed him. Trump gave Christie COVID, and Christie almost died in the hospital. And Trump was a real shit to him. Christie I didn't know about this. Christie, I saw him do this interview with Anderson Cooper a while back. And he had written a book, I think, and was telling the story about how Trump called him in the hospital. Mind you, Christie was in the ICU, the intensive care unit, the place where you go when you're really in danger of dying, right? He's got COVID. It's right before the 2020 presidential election. Christie's got COVID. He's very ill, but not telling people publicly how ill he is. And he said, I was dying, like he was going to die. And Christie is also obese. I mean, he's obese. He is a hugely fat man, which with COVID, much more dangerous. So he was in real danger here as far as his life. He's in the hospital. Trump calls him in the hospital. And he goes, okay. He goes, I thought that's kind of nice. He called me. Hi, Mr. President. How are you? He said, Trump calls. And he said one or two things. Christie, I'm watching. There's an interview with Anderson Cooper that's hilarious in this. He says one or two things. How are you? And he goes, oh, so I just want to make sure you're not going to tell people I got you sick, right? And he goes, well, no, Mr. President. He goes, honestly, I was in a meeting with you and 4 or 5 other people. Any of them could have been the person who got all of us sick. We don't know who got who sick, really, I guess, right? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, gotta go now. Glad talking, bye. And he goes, immediately Trump hangs up. Trump was afraid Christie was going to tell people Trump got him sick, right? What happens? Christie gets out of the hospital. He goes, a couple days later, he goes, I get a call from a couple different reporters, and they tell me, they go, we thought you should know this. Trump is telling people in town, he's telling reporters, he's pitching them the story that you got him sick and almost killed him. That it was Christie who got Trump sick. Oh. And for Christie, he claims that was the last straw, that Trump pretty much almost killed him. But I will say this, anybody who it took until October 20th of 2020 to realize Donald Trump was a bad man, and right, I mean, and it took you almost dying, and even after you almost died, it took you finding out that Trump was then blaming you for you to finally go, hey, this Trump guy, maybe he's not that good of a man. Maybe he's not good to be president. Chris Christie, my concern with Christie is, I think he is a powerful candidate. He's controversial in terms of New Jersey. A lot of people think there's corruption, right? I mean, he's had corruption scandals. I don't mean a lot of people. He's had corruption scandals, but there is a certain honesty or frankness to the man that is very impressive. He also can be very angry, which is not good. You get like Ron DeSantis, the guy from Florida running the Republican, is always very angry. And I think sometimes if you're too angry, it's a little scary, right? Chris Christie has an angry side that can get a little scary. But there's a frankness from him that is very nice and nice to see. You feel like he's saying what he believes. The other day, he got asked about Trump and said, would you pardon Trump? And he said, no. He said, if he's guilty, he's going to jail. Because if the court finds him innocent, he's fine. If the court finds him guilty, he's going to jail. And it was like, holy shit. I mean, that is something no Republican, Nikki Haley certainly hasn't said that. That is something no Republican candidate has said. So he's interesting, but as people were saying, Chris Christie has also had these scandals. The bridge scandal that somebody raised on TikTok there, some corruption scandals that are not good. And like I said, he was the first person to endorse Trump. Christie's great on Ukraine, Thunder. Christie's wonderful on Ukraine, which is good. He gets why Ukraine matters. He gets why Russia matters. He gets why Putin is problematic, why Putin is a danger to the West, why what happens in Ukraine affects all of us. He gets all of that and he explains it very well. I just don't love that he was an early Trump supporter because it says to me something's a little, thank you, Shanlin. I think if you look at Trump in 2015 at the very beginning and think, hey, this guy would be good, you got some issues, but nonetheless, nobody's perfect. So Christie's actually quite interesting. Again, Republican, so it depends on your views on abortion and everything else, but he's not doing well. Christie's not doing well at all. Thank you, Jetta, Shanlin, right? He's not doing well at all in the polls because guess what? Christie has been very anti-Trump and saying, look, I mean, I'm different than that guy. I'm not going to run like him. And that message with Republican voters. So So, you know, Scarlett is for an R. For a Republican. I'm okay with Christie. Um, yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing too. Like, Give Me Food is saying, can you just imagine the firestorm that'll happen if Nikki Haley somehow wins Iowa or New Hampshire? You know, our elections are very strange. I mean, it's very complicated how our elections work. We have a primary system for the presidency, each party, and sometimes what happens is the first states tend to be small states. By the way, what are the first couple of primaries this year? Because we change it every year. What do we got happening, guys? Is it Iowa? It's not Iowa and then South Carolina, is it? What's the schedule we've got here? I know I should know this. I haven't looked recently because we changed it. It used to be New Hampshire was like January 1st was like the original one. Iowa, New Hampshire for the Republicans. Yeah, for the Republicans. Iowa, then New Hampshire. Okay, okay. When South Carolina? Give Me Food says Iowa in 10 days, New Hampshire in 3 weeks. Okay. Um, what often happens is, and Iowa, small state. New Hampshire, probably smaller state, I would think, and very particular, both very white states, right? So now in the Republican Party, that doesn't mean much because it tends to be a rather white party generally. In the Democratic Party, it matters. There was a lot of complaints for Democrats over the years that, you've got your early states, Iowa and these other states that are very white, and they're not representative of the party overall, accordingly. Meaning white people are a part of the Democratic Party, but Black people and Latinos are also a big part of the Democratic Party, right? So the concern is if you have the first couple primaries in states that aren't representative, you get momentum from those first couple primaries. I bring this up because of the Republicans. So the thought is, if Nikki Haley were to do well in Iowa, the first primary or first caucus, whatever it is for Republicans, that could help change her trajectory. Because what happens is, not surprisingly, people look and go, "Oh my God, you won!" And then you win the second one. "Oh my God, you won!" And even if you were a small candidate, suddenly it's like, "Whoa!" And your star rises, and all of a sudden more people support you. So things can change. Some of the concern is whether Trump has just so much support that it's going to be impossible for any other Republican to beat him in primaries. But who knows? But it's wild that the primaries are this close. I mean, that's what happens January. I mean, what's funny too, any of you guys who aren't American, our presidential race goes for about 2 years, which is insane. Because I know in Europe, like the French one goes maybe 3 months or something, maybe. I mean, I was like, oh my God, I wish. For 2 years, we've been doing this. And Biden hasn't had to worry about it because he's the Democrat. There's no primary challenger. But on the Republican side, this has been 2 years, or been 1 year already. Happened to Jen Bartlett. I love Jen Bartlett. In Australia, by law, the campaign is 4 months. Yeah, that's what, I mean, it's crazy. I do wish ours was limited if there's some way. 6 weeks in Canada? No way. Is it really? Hey, Betsy. In the UK, it's 6 months tops. Yeah. No, 2 freaking years here. It's really annoying. And all the debates happen. I mean, it's just, now it gets interesting though, because now you got the primaries. So now it gets interesting with who's blah, blah, blah. But it's a weird election. I mean, from a Democratic perspective, it's funny because Trump, in terms of the legitimate candidates, meaning who could win, it's really Trump or Haley. There's nobody else. DeSantis is already pretty much toast. So it's Trump or Haley. I think Biden would have an easier time beating Trump than Haley. I think that's a given, really. I'm sure the polls show it too. Vivek, I think Ramaswamy, who's the other, he's not doing well, the other Democrat, who's the Indian American guy. I think once people get to know him, they're not going to like him. The way he speaks appeals to bomb throwers, which is fine. I think Republicans who like to beat up Democrats and this kind of stuff will like him. I think a lot of Republicans in the middle and voters in the middle are going to find him far too acerbic. They're going to find him far too angry. I think Ramaswamy. Also, I don't think he's very bright. I think most of his stuff is bullshit. Literally, he's just spouting stuff that he thinks Trump voters will like. And at some point, I think that's going to catch up with him. So I think if he were the candidate, I think he'd lose in the end because he's too new to this. He doesn't know the issues. I think he'd be exposed as a bit of a charlatan. Nikki Haley could beat Biden. She could beat him. But can she beat Trump? That's the question. Think of Nicola. You know, I mean, yeah, I don't know enough about it, Martin. I mean, what I mean is, I don't know enough about the sort of the legal challenge. Martin was asking about the case going to the Supreme Court about the states trying to keep Biden off the ballot in various states based on the 14th. I'm going to get this wrong. 14th Amendment, 13th. I think it's the 14th. I'm already forgetting. I hope it's 14th. But the Constitution saying that basically, if you committed insurrection, you can't 14th. Thank you, Martin. I thought that's what it was. You can't hold federal office. And two states have already ruled against it was Colorado and help me out here. Who's the other one? Colorado and I'm forgetting, guys. Was it Northeast? Maine. Okay, Maine. All right, Colorado and Maine. Thank you. I may have said the wrong person, Harslade. I don't know. Maybe I did. But to keep Trump off the ballot. Yeah, maybe I said Biden. Yeah, Trump. So they're in those two states, they've ruled that Trump will be kept off the ballot. It will obviously go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court right now is a very strong conservative Republican majority. Doesn't prove that they win, right? I mean, but I think a lot of us just feel like the Supreme Court majority will find a way to put Trump on the ballot because they're afraid of what would happen if he weren't. They're afraid of social unrest or whatever, because let's face it, Trump has already been making far too much noise about violence in the election anyway. But, my sense on it isn't even a legal one. If he's guilty of insurrection, then, or again, people get into the question whether he's guilty, then don't put him on the ballot. It's what the Constitution says. I just kind of would like us to follow the law. And by the way, Hunter Biden, I've heard the same thing. I think Republicans are a little sick about Hunter Biden. He's the president's son, and the guy's a mess. He was a drug addict and everything else. He's a mess. I think it's kind of sad the way Republicans are trying to use him. Having said that, if he's guilty of all these felonies, throw him in jail. I don't care, And I feel the same way about Trump, really. If he's guilty and the Constitution says he can't run for president, then he shouldn't run for president. But we should stop playing games like, oh, Republicans will get mad. Yeah, so what? Why don't we just obey the law? By the way, what a scary thought that in a democracy we would determine whether we apply the Constitution based on whether people will get mad. Woo! That's scary, and that is fascism. That absolutely is. Oh, well, the one guy has rallied enough people who are violent and spoken violently to them enough about the need for violence that if we apply the law in his case, his people will go violent, so let's not apply the law. Really? I mean, really? Okay, Yar, I have to break. I'm not even going to respond to that. This is the problem also, I'm sorry, but with some Republicans, do you think Hillary obeys the law? How the fuck does Hillary Clinton have anything to do with this discussion? Seriously, grow up. I mean, grow up. Hillary Clinton isn't on any ballot. She's gone. Grow up. Get over it. Hillary hasn't run for office in 7 years. Seriously, grow up and move on. I mean, do you think Hillary obeys it? Yeah. I mean, seriously, grow up and discuss the issues. No, I mean that kind of stuff is just that stuff drives me a little nuts because it literally is. Don't like Hillary, I'm fine, but don't like. I mean, Hillary that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about Trump versus Biden versus Nikki Haley and everybody else. I mean, that's just anyway. Yeah, Obama. I'm surprised they didn't bring up Obama. My God. Anyway, what else, guys? What else? Yeah, Biden has handled the thing with his son perfectly. I mean, Biden came into office and the special counsel was already investigating his son, and Biden said, hands off, do what you want, Yeah, I didn't see 60 Minutes, but I know about Russia doing it. Sobo saying 60 Minutes, which is a big American news show, had a piece about Russia looting Ukrainian museums. Do you think Ukraine will get its stuff back? No. How are they going to get it back? It's like the Nazis, except the Nazis lost. Russia has to lose, and Russia's never going to lose in the sense of, we'd have to overthrow their government. That's never going to happen. I mean, you know. Ah, the raccoon. Oh, the raccoon. Yeah, we may never that poor raccoon may never be liberated either. I forgot about that. Yeah. The raccoon that the Russians stole from the Kherson zoo in southern Ukraine. They literally stole a bunch of animals, including the raccoon. Just sad. Very sad. You know, Putin's health declining. We don't know. We don't know. There've been a lot of rumors about it, but there've not been any facts. Nobody knows. I mean, people think he probably has some health issues because there are signs of it. His swollen face and things. His hand. There's clearly an issue with his hand. Like in meetings, you'll see. I don't remember if it's left or his right hand, but you'll see the hand kind of literally gripping like this, and the one will be moving, and the other hand is just gripping the chair like this. He's got some health issues, but that doesn't mean you're dying. And there have been rumors about him having cancer too. You can have cancer and live decades. You know, this TikTok who's there. The bad people never die. That's the other problem. Very often, the bad people are the ones who never die. So Putin could be very sick and he could be around for 20 years. You know, the Russians are famous for that. During the Soviet Union, all of their leaders were like 70s and 80s and dying, and they literally stayed in office until they died. All of their leaders died in office. They had like a number of them famously in 1984, 83 and 84, when I went to the Soviet Union, and there were like three deaths in a row, three deaths in a row almost. Yeah, because Brezhnev died, and what was it? Brezhnev, Andropov, Chernenko, and then was it Gorbachev, who lived? But you had like three in a row. You know, it was crazy. But they left them there until they were cold corpses. You know, Native American president. That's interesting. No one's there's never. I mean, I've never heard this. There's never been an American president with any Native American blood. I know there's never been a Native American president, but has there been anybody that had any Native American blood that we know? It's an interesting question. I just was wondering about it. You know, Lincoln. Who knows? I don't know. Wow. I've never heard it discussed. You know, um, pretty young back then. Yeah, I'm sure. 56. Well, it was 40, 40 years ago. Yeah, 40 years ago. I mean, you know, so lots on Harvard. Oh, we talked about Harvard the other day. I mean, look, the Harvard thing is pretty simple in some ways. She screwed up all the university. This is the university presidents who screwed up at the hearing about Israel and Gaza and anti-Semitism in the U.S. They were asked about. We talked about this the other day, but I don't mind bringing it up again. They were asked the university presidents, Harvard, UPenn. You guys said, and help me. The third one, Harvard, UPenn, and what was the third one, guys? Was it MIT maybe? Um, and they were asked about MIT. Thank you, L. Would you, um, what would you do about a student who said who said on campus all Jews should be killed in a genocide? We should kill all the Jews. And the all three university presidents gave this really bad answer. And it might have been a correct answer in some ways, meaning legally correct, but it was politically a very bad answer. They said, well, I'd have to context. And the congresswoman, who's a Republican, firebrand, goes, the context is they just called for all Jews to be killed. Are you okay with that? Well, I still don't know the context. And all of them kind of went, they gave a lawyer's answer. I'm a lawyer. The lawyer's answer is correct, that that's not enough. I need to know what was the context. Was this person talking to some friend and said, yeah, all the Jews should die, right? And somebody overheard them. Did the person give a speech on campus? Were they putting up flyers? I mean, right? The context. It's a horrible thing to say no matter what, but the context matters in terms of, do you keep them out, right? Are you going to expel somebody because somebody was overheard telling a friend privately, right? Versus in a speech in front of campus, right? It's different. But the answer you give isn't, well, it depends on context. The answer you give is, that is a horrible thing to say. It is an obscene thing to say, I don't want to hear any students at my university talking that way about Jews, about blacks, against anybody. It's promoting genocide and zero tolerance for that. But would I kick them out? I am not in charge of kicking them out. That is the legal counsel, right? I mean, I'm guessing here, but there's some process the university has. You'd say, I'm not in charge of kicking them out. I literally do not make the decision. I'm guessing this is the case. It's the legal counsel and the academic standards commission. They have to investigate and determine whether the actions meet the standards of the student code of conduct. That's the answer you give. So you say, when you ask, would I kick them out? I literally physically can't because I don't have that authority. Would I be outraged? Yes. Would I call for an investigation? Yes. And would I speak to the campus and send the message to the entire campus that this is never acceptable? Yes. That answer would have saved her, I think, but she gave a shitty answer. Second problem is then they caught her on plagiarism. A lot of old plagiarism stuff, and that doomed her. Because, let's face it, a lot of people tried to defend her on this. It's the president of a university. How are you the president of a university and you survive a plagiarism scandal? You can't. You just can't in a university, right? I mean, you can't say, well, plagiarism wasn't that bad. It was a long time ago. It's plagiarism in a university, right? You just can't. You can't. So, were there a lot of people going for her head? Yes. Did a lot of conservatives want to go after her too? Yes. Was she very liberal? Yes. Did she screw up on the anti-Semitism answer? Yes. Was it enough to fire her? 50-50. But then she did the plagiarism, or they caught her in the plagiarism, and then she was toast. Because then this is also a political thing. You can defend somebody on a horrific scandal, and maybe they can survive. But if we say another shoe drops, if another scandal drops that's totally unrelated, that's equally bad, then you're toast. Thank you, Joe. And in this case, the anti-Semitism stuff was bad enough, and I mean borderline hanging on, and then plagiarism at a university president, not just Harvard, by the way, which is like the premier American university, just to make it even worse, right? Because this is a beacon to the world of academic standards. Your president committed plagiarism, forget it. So no, I don't think there was any choice. Does it mean they were gunning for her anyway? Yeah, sure. The answer I sort of gave before was I used this about Bill Clinton with the investigation of Bill Clinton in 98 or whatever it was, the impeachment stuff, the Starr investigation. Thank you, Foodie, for the gift on TikTok. Please keep the gifts coming, guys. Remember, this is how I pay the bills and keep the show going. So thank you, I appreciate it. But I said that in Bill Clinton's case, there was a witch hunt, right? The Republicans launched a witch hunt and they caught a witch. And I think it's the same thing with her. There was a witch hunt of this woman, but they caught a witch. And that's her problem. There's no way she could stay. There's no way she could stay. And I will say this too, because I had somebody Jewish raise this to me the other day when I was talking about it. And it's a fair point because even I'm downplaying it a little. I say it's borderline whether she should stay about the anti-Semitism stuff. Had she said it about blacks, nobody would say it was borderline, is what the person said. But not any other ethnic groups. I think blacks is number one. Had you said all black people should be killed? I mean, look, I'm even whispering saying this, guys. Jews, I didn't whisper it. Blacks, I'm whispering. Okay, this is what I mean. Had somebody said that on campus, they'd be gone. They'd be gone, right? And that's part of the reason. And this isn't a black versus Jewish thing. It's a matter of sometimes you have to kind of look at stuff and step back and go, okay, am I applying a different standard to different ethnic groups? Somebody calling for their murder, and you'd say, well, with this one, I would say no. The other one I'm saying that's bad, right? So in that case, she probably should have stepped down. She was bad. She just gave a shitty answer. She gave a shitty answer. What do you do? Anyway, and the other president stepped down too. One of the other, was it UPenn's? I mean, this is the other thing too, because people were, the other thing, thank you, Jeremy. And who was it? Joe. Thank you, Joe, for the gifts. People were saying, which kind of annoyed me, because I've worked on civil rights issues for 30 years, and it annoys me when people like to kind of play the gay card or the black card or whatever, when it really isn't what's going on. And everyone was trying to play it's because she's black. They had to get a black woman. And I'm like, no, because actually the white woman had to resign first. They went after all three university presidents. It just so happened it was three women testifying, but they were the three that were there. All three of them were two white women, one black. All three of them were destroyed for this, and the one white woman was forced to resign first. So, it was not. Who did race play a role in some people not liking the Harvard woman? Probably, because some people are racist. Yeah, yeah. But it's pretty clear that they didn't like the white women either, and the white woman's head got chopped off first. So, Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, she's in the job. Tulsi Gabbard. Oh dear God. Oh Terry, you need to Google her more. Tulsi's bad. Thank you, Macabre. The MIT thing is weird now. If their president gets to stay, yeah. No, I will say this: because it had the plagiarism scandal, it gives the MIT president an ability to discern difference. Well, look, she had to step down because she had a plagiarism scandal. That I did not. So she's able to sort of define a difference there, but it became such a scandal that it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Whoa, I couldn't care less about the U.S. military. U.S. military is not going to have an insurrection. Dozens of officers signed a declaration, then they should be fired. Yeah, not worried about it, but they should be fired. What else, guys? I'm gonna call it quits soon. 6:22. So we've been going an hour, 20 minutes. It's some stupid. I should have even repeated it. What else, guys? Yeah, Tulsi is in Putin's pocket, I think. But do you think everyone is still scared of Putin using nukes? Less so. Less so. Less so. Clearly Biden and the Europeans got much less afraid of Putin, but there still is that lingering concern about Ukraine, which is why we're not helping. Why, not to mention, not only are we not helping Ukraine, but look at Biden right now. How often do you hear Biden talking about the fact that the Republicans have cut funding for Ukraine to zero? Right? How often does he bring it up? Thank you, Danny. If this were a crisis, don't you think he should be talking about it a lot? He's not. He's not. When's the last time he brought it up? I don't know. There was a statement several days ago, a written statement, right? I mean, it's just there's no sense of urgency with this, even from Biden. I don't know that. I really don't. I don't know if Biden wants the money. I have no idea what he wants. I really don't. It's just Democrats also suck at. Thank you, Alexander. Democrats suck at this thing. If Democrats had cut funding for a war that Republicans were supporting, the American people supported, that was a war of a young democratic state in Europe, repercussions for European security against a traditional enemy of the United States, and Democrats cut that funding, you would see Republicans destroy Democrats, and we'd have to give the funding. When Republicans do it, Democrats go, I issued a statement a week ago, right? Biden gave a speech 6 weeks ago. He gave a speech. That was nice, right? It's like la la la. Well, I'd studied Russian for a year, so I have a decent pronunciation of Ukrainian and Russian. Sorry, somebody said I pronounced Alexander well. I pretty much get the pronunciation. I learned the alphabet. So whenever I see things like written in Ukrainian, I can do a pretty good job pronouncing it correctly, at least. Even if I can't read Ukrainian very well, but I can pronounce things well. Yeah, the Epstein list. I don't think there was any big bombshells with the Epstein list. Right? Clinton was there, Trump was there. Big surprise on both of them. But also, I don't know that we know what it means. Thank you, Danny, for the gift. I don't know that we know yet what it means. I'm getting a new mic. Chill out. Nothing should be. I'm not even touching the computer now. So there's nothing that should be making the mic do anything on YouTube. It's my laptop. You're hearing my laptop mic. So if something's rattling a wire, there's some problem with the StreamYard, which is the service I use. I've got a mic back in DC. We'll see how it goes. Nothing I can do about it now. So chill out. We know there's audio issues broadcasting here from Chicago. There's nothing I can do about it. Uh, your son is teaching himself Russian? Oh, that's wild. I'm not sure how useful Russia will be, although Russia is becoming an issue again. When I studied it, it was right before the Soviet Union blew up and went away. But Russia is sadly relevant again now. I'm going back to DC Monday. I was going back on Sunday. There was a huge storm hitting the northeast of the U.S., rain and snow on Sunday. And Southwest sent one of those text messages out there and said, if you're finding hablo español, you're saying others. Yes. Spanish is always helpful. Yeah, I get to use Spanish a lot. I speak Spanish. I don't get to use it nearly enough. Spanish I get to use, and like in DC, I get to use Spanish all the time, which is quite fun. French, Italian, no. Greek, no. Oh, one of your son's classmates is a Ukrainian Russian speaking refugee. Oh, that's interesting. I speak a little Russian because I studied it for a year, but I don't have a good vocabulary or anything. What I speak, I can speak well, but I know phrases, I know some vocabulary, but it's been a very long time, and it was only a year. But get me drunk, I can, I can get by with Russian. Russian, I liked Russian as a language. I mean, Russian was very hard. I liked it as a language, but it was very difficult because, like a Greek, it's got the case system. So words change based on where they are in the sentence. So, like nouns, like in English, you learn like I'm going to the post office. The post office is the post office, right? Whether it's this is a post office. I'm going to the post office. I left my book. I left my mail in the post office, right? It's always post office. In Russian, the post office, I think, is pochta, okay? But if you're saying I'm going to the post office, you say na pochtu. So you say pochtu with an u instead of pochta with an a, and it totally Greek's the same thing. But the noun changes based on where it is, direct object, whatever in the sentence, and literally you've got like 5 different ways of writing the word based on how it is in the sentence. And yeah, Ukrainian is the same way, of course, very similar language. Very different. I just found that very hard. Greek, I had to literally go and live in Greece for 4 months, and that taught me how to do it in Greek because I heard enough people do it that I finally went, okay. He is George. His name is George. Give it to George. Whose ball is that? It's George's ball. And in every sentence, the word George is different. I went, okay, that made sense. But any case, Russian's that way too. Very complicated. Japanese I never studied Japanese, but I went to Japan when I was working in the U.S. Senate for an official trip. The Japanese invited a bunch of us over for like 2 weeks, and it was very interesting. Which does the Russian, of course, that's what I speak. Japanese, the plane trip was 14 hours. It was horrific. And I got a little book and just started, because I wanted to learn a little Japanese. And Japan was funny in that what I found was because this was early 1990s, people did not speak English. I thought Japan everybody spoke English. Oh, maybe now. Back then, I don't know now in Japan. I hope Japan now. But back then, they did not speak English. So you're going to restaurants, you're going to taxis, you taxi home to your hotel, you had to speak Japanese. And I'm going in these taxis and telling the driver, like, we're going to the hotel, blah, blah. And the driver would, of course, hear me speak Japanese and go, like either where are you from or are you American? So I don't remember anything anymore. But I learned then, and I was like, yes, I'm American. What are you doing here? I'm here for work. It was really interesting because what shocked me about Japanese was you could hear, at least in Tokyo, you could hear the words. Ukrainian, by the way, I find Ukrainian very difficult because I have a hard time hearing the words. Russian, I hear it more. When I hear Russian speak, I can hear the individual words, even if I don't know them. In Ukrainian, I have a hard time hearing the individual words sometimes. Japanese, I found I could hear the individual words. So I could at least learn basic words and have a conversation with the taxi driver, which is really fun and crazy. But it depends on the It depends on the language. Spanish depends on which Spanish you speak, which country. Whether Mexican, very clear with the words. Spain, right? Panama, ooh. Puerto Rico, ooh. Whereas Mexico is super clear. But it's so it's funny. I think languages are also easier when you can really French. I speak French very well. I don't speak and no Hebrew at all. Nothing. Um, but my French is excellent. French, Italian. It depends who says it. I think it depends who speaks it in Italian, though. You know what I mean? Because Italian's pretty clear. It's not like French where it's all vowels. French is very difficult unless you know the vowels and then you go, aha. Arabic, I tried Arabic, I couldn't understand it. Canadian French makes me laugh, but but it's different words and stuff. I found accent's a little hard too, so I never spent any time there. You know. Uh, oh, that's interesting. Terry Davis says Anna from Ukraine has a YouTube channel. She does a word a day, always entertaining. Well, that's fun and kind of nice because a word a day is just enough to get you slowly going without feeling too overwhelmed. You know. German, I always thought would be fun, except German's just useless. No offense to the Germans, but what are you doing in German? You know, I mean, right? The Germans speak English anyway. There's just no utility. Spanish in this country, very useful, I find. Also, there's a ton of countries that speak Spanish, which is nice. You know? Italian, I love just because I love the Italians. Not very useful anywhere else, but I love it. French, useful, useful. I have traveled a lot. I love to travel. Yeah. Also, I just worked in Washington for 40 years practically. 40? 40? Well, 40 including internships. You know, yeah, lucky we aren't all speaking German. Very true. Very true. Barbie. See what you think about Barbie. Like I said, the second half I didn't like. First half I liked. Oh, Babbel. I thought you said Barbie. You were using it in Spanish, like you put Barbie in Spanish. Oh, Babbel. I've never used Babbel. Mandarin, yeah, Chinese would be very hard. Um, I've got an extra mic in DC if the mic is the problem. I've got an extra mic. You just have to see if it's the problem. I'm not convinced entirely that it is. It could be the connection that I'm using. Also, by the way, the mic isn't on right now. I mean, I've got actually I'm going to unplug. Well, the mic isn't even plugged in right. So any static you're getting on YouTube isn't even from the mic anymore. So that's what I mean. It's something with me traveling. When I get back to DC, we'll see. Because if it's still doing it in DC, it means the connector that's connecting all the pieces together. And then, like it's a USB connector. That means I buy a new one of that. I've got a boom mic. I've got a Shure. You've never seen me in DC, honey. You've not seen my mic in DC. I've got a $500 mic in DC. It's a Shure. It's Michael Jackson's mic. I've got a very nice mic in DC. TikTok, you should not hear a cackle other than me laughing. I go to DC because I live in DC. I'm just visiting Chicago, visiting my mom out here. Thank you, C3. I actually live in Washington, DC. Lived there for a very long time. So that's why I go to DC. Cutting out, that's just weird. It shouldn't be cutting out. But yeah, no, it should be very good in DC. Yeah, who knows, Kelly? I mean, who knows? It's being I don't know. Again, next week, hopefully it's back to normal with my good mic. If it's not, then it's the connectors and we'll know, you know? Anyway, all right, guys. Oh, second set of names from Epstein? That'll be interesting. All right, guys, I'm going to go. It's 35 after. I'm going to go find some dinner. Good to talk to you all. I did not practice. I did 2 law jobs, hated them, and never went into law as real. Yay, my neighbor got my package. All right, guys, but I'm going to get going. Good night, all. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, Critter. Remember Saturday. Oh, the show is very good. Yeah. Remember Saturday morning. She's sleeping. Sasha is sleeping on the carpet over here. she's hold on again. As always, hard to show the rest of you, but she's on the floor, kind of resting over there right now. But Saturday morning, we will do our usual Saturday morning show for the monthly subscribers. That's the monthly subscribers on TikTok, the monthly subscribers on YouTube, Twitch, Discord, Ko-fi. TikTok will be on TikTok at noon Eastern Time US. The rest of you will be on Discord. record at noon Eastern Time US or 11 a.m. Central Time. So join us then. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. Tomorrow night, yes, or 6 o'clock Chicago, Eastern, Washington D.C. time. Monday, I'm probably not going to be on Monday now because I'm flying back to DC. I was supposed to fly Sunday. Now I'm flying Monday because of the weather. Um, it's probably going to have to be Monday. Monday, I'm probably taking off because I may not get home in time. I'll let you know, but I don't. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, and hopefully the sound will fix itself because I don't know why the hell the sound is so bad. I mean, like when I get closer to my computer, the computer sound should be okay, but it's not being. Oh, and mom's coming rolling in. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. All right. She's walking away. All right. See you guys. All right. Bye bye.